Here is my review of Star Wars The Old Republic Revan by Drew Karpyshyn. The story jumps back and forth between the redeemed Revin looking to rediscover his past and understand why he became a Sith Lord, and the actual Sith Lord Scourge, an enforcer within the hidden true Sith Empire, investigating assassination attempts on a member of the Sith Dark Council, a Darth Nihilus. While Revin gets deeper and deeper into discovering himself, Scourge discovers a massive conspiracy to unseat the Sith Emperor, who is identified as Vidiots. The conspiracy, spearheaded by Nihilus, is explained in detail to Scourge in an attempt to sway him to their side. In this explanation, we discover much of Vidiots' backstory and how depraved and insane he is, which only makes him that much more dangerous. We are given a glimpse of Vidiots' power in this world called Nassima, which has been sucked dry Darth Nihilus style by the Emperor. Things come to a minor head when Revin arrives on Nassima while Scourge and Nihilus are there. Revin is shot down and captured by the Sith. Nihilus, who is one of the few Sith other than Vidiot who is aware of his existence, deduces that he was mentally enslaved by Vidiot and sent back to the Republic to gather intel. She decides to keep Revin alive so he can be studied, so a way of breaking Vidiot's mental hold on his slaves can be discovered. This is where I encountered my first and primary problem with this book. After playing Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2, I was left with the impression that Revin was trying to be the anti-Palpatine. What the game suggested is that Revin found out about the surviving Sith Empire through third-party sources and decided to fortify the Republic against it by adopting the enemy's methods. He turned to the dark side out of pure necessity. He would act as a sort of vaccination against the Sith, using their methods to justify the atrocities he was forced to commit and showing the Republic what the enemy was capable of. He was the hero, styling himself as a villain. As I said, the anti-Palpatine. Instead, this book reveals that he was mentally enslaved by the Sith Emperor and simply broke free of his master's hold and rebelled against him. Revin is reduced from the anti-Palpatine to a rebellious slave trying to screw his master out of simple contempt. No longer did he turn to the dark side out of necessity and a lack of options, but now he was forced into it by Vidiot. In short, Revin's character is severely diminished. The start of the next half of the book felt like a kick in the balls for me. Part 2 picks up 4 years down the road and starts by briefly summarizing the events of KOTOR 2 and really downplaying them, which pissed me off. The events of KOTOR 2 were some of the most significant in both Jedi and Sith history. We have two of the most powerful Sith Lords ever known, Darths Nihilus and Sion, running wild through the galaxy hunting down the Jedi. This hunt, the first Jedi Purge, remains, in my opinion, the most successful, in that not only was the Jedi Order almost completely eradicated, but they were also in a state of utter confusion in that they weren't even aware who was hunting them. These individuals and events scarcely matter in the story, and while that can be viewed as admirable for keeping focus, it makes them appear as isolated and meaningless occurrences that don't matter, despite their wide-reaching repercussions. Then we are introduced to the Jedi Exile, the player character in KOTOR 2, now identified as Meetra Surik. I do have issues with her name, but I will leave them until later. Meetra is basically sent by Revan's wife, Bastila Shan of KOTOR 1 fame, to find Revin himself. Because Revan's droid was able to fly his ship, the Ebon Hawk, back to Republic space after Revin was captured, it turns up again in Meetra's possession. She uses information from the droid to travel to Nassima, where she discovers the planet stripped of all life and surviving records that she could lead her to Dromund Kaas, the current Sith capital. Here's where I encountered another set of problems. Firstly, Meetra only compares the desolation of Nassima to the death echoes of Malachor V, even though it is obviously more similar to the devastation of Qatar, which was explained to Meetra in detail by Visas Mar, the only survivor. She appears to have no knowledge of the ability Vidiot used to drain Nassima, despite receiving in-depth explanations of the capabilities of Darth Nihilus in KOTOR 2, who used similar powers. What really surprises me is that Drew Karpyshyn, the writer of both this book and both KOTOR games, failed so spectacularly to research and review his own work, which results in many discrepancies. Secondly, it seems rather convenient to me that Mitra found such complete records that effectively laid out a roadmap to the current hidden Sith Empire, as well as allowing her to piece together almost the entire Sith history from the scraps. While this may be a demonstration of a keen intellect, Karpyshyn fails to properly sell that idea, and it becomes she only figures it out because the plot needs her to. Anyway, this obvious deus ex machina allows Mitra to make her way to Dromund Kaas, and we cut to Revin. Darth Nihilus has basically stopped interrogating him because his amnesia makes this a waste of time, but Scourge has put effort into striking up a rapport of sorts with Revin to try and learn more of the light side, due to Revin's rather unique perspective on the Force. Revin, on the other hand, is trying to exploit Scourge so that he can escape. While Revin did occasionally overstep his bounds, overall his psychological manipulation of Scourge was a virtuoso work worthy of Palpatine, and I have to admit I did rather enjoy this chapter. Anyway, Mitra arrives on Dromund Kaas, hawks off a set of precious stones that she just happens to be carrying, and sets up a meeting with Setchel, Darth Nihilus' aide, a spy master who apparently works as a private detective on the side. He sets up a meeting between her and Scourge, whose image was taken by Revan's droid when Revin was captured, allowing Mitra to track him. I've got to say that I did find Mitra's meeting with Setchel, who is so close to Scourge and Nihilus, a little convenient. So, Mitra is attacked at the meeting by soldiers with Scourge, but she kills him off pretty quickly. Scourge doesn't attack her, however, knowing she is here to rescue Revin. Scourge, already far gone from traditional Sith thinking due to Revan's manipulations, decides to reason with her. Scourge kills Setchel and uses his data collection to convince her to side with him, and conceives a surprisingly bold plan to trick Vidiot into helping them. I actually approve of this element of Scourge's character development. His experiences interacting with Revin have allowed him, at least partially, to overcome his Sith-style selfishness and survival instinct and demonstrate some genuine courage and bravery. Scourge is a great character and easily the best in the book, especially given my criticisms of all the others. Anyway, Scourge reveals to Vidiot Nihilus' involvement in the plan to dethrone him, and Vidiot initiates an attack on her stronghold, which Scourge intends to use as cover to break out Revin. They get to Revin, and while he suffers through the after effects of the interrogation drugs he's been on for the past 4 years to keep him docile, Mitra gives him his mask. This causes him to regain all of his memories and made me bang my head against the wall. Pure deus ex machina. Anyway, in regards to Revin, the beast is now out of the cage and he kills Darth Nihilus. As to Mitra's performance in this duel, I was deeply surprised that the Jedi who bested Darth Sion and Traya, two of the most powerful Sith Lords of the era, performed so poorly against Nihilus, who is relatively no-name in comparison to those juggernauts.